right, guys, gals, ladies, gentlemen, I'm Mike Kenny. I'm the Executive Director for Warriors Ascent. For those that don't know who I am, for those that maybe are joining us from outside the Warriors Ascent community, maybe some of Kerry's crew, we are super glad to have you. As you all know, we've all been sequestered and we've been isolating due to COVID-19. So, of course, like every other organization, we racked our brains in terms of, hey, how is it that we can bring value to the community and still remain relevant? So, you know, we thought of webinars, meditation, mindfulness, self-care, a multitude of topics, all of which I would hope you've seen, or at least some of which you've seen on our website. So that's what this is about. I mean, this is about fostering a sense of community, still offering value to everybody, kind of checking in, making sure that everyone's doing okay. So we may take a few minutes to do that, you know, and just say, hey, is everyone doing all right? And then, man, I'm going to hand it over to Kerry, and he's going to take the class. You know, self-care is not selfish. I'm not going to steal too much of his thunder. Just set the stage for him. I mean, he's done yoga for us for many, many years now. Everybody loves him. You know him. You love him. Kerry Steuart, coming to you from Colorado. It's going to be great. No, but we're super happy you're here. I know everybody's stressed, whether it's because you got kids at home instead of being at school, you know, you've not been able to get out, whatever. I know I'm feeling it too. And Kerry's going to go over some techniques, you know, in terms of helping with that, but then also more importantly, letting everybody know that taking care of yourself, you know, whether it's, I don't know, head of household, parent, whatever it might be, it's not selfish. You know, it's absolutely critical. So, all right, we are standing at 16. That's great. Hopefully, I think we had 18 apply. Hopefully we'll get a few more. But all right, Kerry, at this point, I'm going to hand the con over to you. I know we're going to talk about some ground rules real fast. Guys, gals, you know, you can raise your hands. I think you can unmute yourselves. And then you'll also see, we'll do a poll or two. And then you should also be able to ask questions. So towards the, you know, the bottom of your screen, if there's something you want answered, once I hand over the con to Kerry, I'm going to let him talk and focus on what he's needs to talk about. I will do my best to look at the questions and field any question that you might have and kind of invite Kerry's attention to that. So Kerry, with that, I'm going to change presenters.
Okay.
And put the webinar in your able hands, man. So everyone, so glad you're here. And we are going to get started. Oh, where are you? Boom.
Okay.
You should have it, Kerry.
Let's see here. You guys see my presentation there?
Yes.
Okay. So let's just do some kind of little housekeeping. Just so you know, I have 8 people in my house and 4 dogs. So, you know, I just want you to be aware of what's going on. So there may be a couple of distractions. These dogs bark at, I don't know. I was talking to Mike a while ago. As soon as he hung up, a herd of elk just went by the road. So you just never know, right? But what I'd like for you to do is, if you want to engage in conversation, that you unmute yourself. But I'm going to ask you to also feel free to share in the question. So when I go through and ask you a question, there's going to be some journaling at the very beginning that you actually go through. If you want to share the question, you can just write it down in there. And then as this goes along, if you have questions as well, feel free to type them up. Now, I'm looking at a separate camera than my computer, but I'll look down at my computer occasionally just to make sure that I don't miss anything. But if you want to speak and you have something to say, just raise your hand, and Mike will be monitoring that for me, and then we can make sure that that question is asked. So just so that's clear, if you want to talk, just raise your hand. You can also type it in to the question box, and then when you want to share my questions that I'll ask, because I'm going to ask a few of you if you could just share some of these questions that I ask after we spend some time journaling, that you share that as well.
Hey, Kerry, one thing, let me just, one caveat too. Hey, everyone, you're only going to see Kerry and me, unfortunately. With GoToWebinar, and we had to research this, because it can accommodate a lot of people. That's what we're, hoping for eventually at end state. The downside is you can only see the presenters. We can't see you. We can hear you. We can, see you raise your hand on the sidebar if you use that function. And if you type in a question or a text, like in a chat, we can see that as well. But if you all can't see each other and every other, person that's on the webinar, that's, that's normal. So just know that. And Kerry, I also have a poll. So when you want me to send the poll, let me know.
Okay. So I guess before we go any further, does anybody have any questions that they want to ask before we kind of get into this?
I just want to thank you
rate.
guys for doing this.
Say that again, Tim.
I just want to thank you guys for doing this.
Oh, you're welcome, man. I appreciate you joining in.
Yeah, man. No, it's good. I saw you, geez, a couple months back at the cohort. It's just good to see you.
Yeah. All right. So this is just, kind of an overview about questions about mindfulness, meditation. And what we're going to do is kind of set the foundation of how we can be present, how we can be mindful. And I'm going to talk about the differences between mindfulness and meditation and how you can incorporate those into your everyday life. All right. So this is I'm going to put this next slide, and then Mike can tee up that question. So how do you define self-care? And then Mike will put up his little poll. Now, hopefully everybody has a journal and they're writing this down as well, right? But go ahead and answer the quick poll.
All right. People are still voting. Got 82%. Yeah, everybody. It's anonymous. I can see the roll up, but I can't see the individual. So don't feel bad if you're not doing it, because I won't know.
That is true. It's all anonymous.
Yes, it's all anonymous. I see 94%, 100% voting. Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, here's the roll up. Here's the roll up. 12% say it's a luxury, right? And I get it. That it's hard. Sometimes it seems like a luxury. 59% say it's a necessity, and I would say that's the right mindset. 47% say I do it when I have the time, and I'd say that's the reality. And 12% say I make the time because of the return on investment. So that's very, very interesting. So I will close the poll right now.
Okay. I guess I probably need to. Now you can see my screen again. So I want you to take, if you have a journal, you can either do this digitally or if you have your pen and paper. But what I want you to do is spend about a minute here and write down how you define self-care and what that actually means to you.
Do you have another? I don't have a poll, buddy. You got it in your journal? Okay.
And after about a minute, then I'll ask for responses going through here. And so if you do the holistic methods to healing workshop that's next week, we're going to kind of go into more detailed of some other options that I consider self-care. But I'll talk for just a minute and then let you guys go ahead and journal and process this. So to me, a lot of it is time alone. To me, it's time journaling, meditating. It's time in my hot tub and sauna, but also just time with my family and time being in nature. So I try to go for a hike every day if possible. And so, today it was my daughter, my youngest daughter, my wife, and then like the 4 dogs. And to me, that's a version of self-care, is getting away from the house and just giving myself some time alone, just to kind of be mindful and be present. So who wants to share? You can either raise your hand if you want to talk, or you can just type in the comments. So under the questions there, if you have a question, it's not really a question, but how would some of you guys define self-care? And I'm hoping somebody types or I'll have to call on you.
For me, it's just setting time aside for myself. Time to meditate, get out in nature, go for a walk, be with me, forget the problems.
Yeah, that's good.
And
So
if I get lucky, I'll be able to use your hot tub and sauna one of these days.
yeah, you need to come out. I've already got a couple of people that text me today that are ready to come out as soon as this whole COVID thing is over.
Well,
All
I'm
right,
bringing my whole family. We're going to quarantine at your place.
that's what my daughter did. So that's why we have so many people here. All right, so I got, let's see. So Tracy, did you find it that you're supposed to just journal how you define self-care? And then Marshall says, keeping your body, mind, and soul healthy. Yeah. Oh, Aaron, of course, horseback riding. I'm not surprised. Christy is on tune with me, yoga and bubble baths. When we bought this house, we don't have a tub, so I had to get into the hot tub instead. Yeah. Aw, Aaron, that's super sweet. All right, Christy's good to go. So all your answers are absolutely correct. What I want you to do is, as you go through and reflect on this over the next couple of days, I want you to kind of expand what you define as self-care. And then if you can take the workshop next week over holistic methods to healing, we're going to dive down a little bit deeper into some of the other methods of self-care as well. But to me, hot tub, sauna, yoga, maybe for some people it's the opportunity to go for a run or a jog. All those things are opportunities for self-care. All right, so here's the next question. Nope, hang on. Oh, Tammy put in here too. Tammy put, appreciating yourself enough to make time to do healthy activities or relaxation techniques to improve how you think or feel, whether exercise, massage, outdoor activities, meditation. I definitely agree with the massage. I am missing that so much. I go twice a week for acupuncture and massage, and I haven't been able to go. So my body is really feeling it. So this is the next journaling question. And once again, I'll give you about a minute to write these down. So I want you to write down what you foresee as your biggest challenges during this week. So this is Monday. So Monday through whatever day ends for you, Saturday or Sunday, write down what you foresee as your biggest challenges this week. Now, this could be mentally, physically, spiritually. This could be your relationships. This could be financially. Anything that's going on in your life that you foresee as a challenge this week. All right, so I'll share some of mine. So I went for a hike up in our backyard, and I got an eczema outbreak today. So one of my challenges physically, mentally, and spiritually is dealing with my eczema. So how is it, I need to make sure that I'm making sure that I'm putting on enough lotion and I'm doing all the preventative measures I can so it doesn't get worse. If anybody saw my breakout last year, it was really, really bad and really painful and irritating. And so I've got to make sure that I have a healthy balance. So one of my challenges that just came up today is eczema, and that's on one of the top priority list. So does anybody want to share what they see? Wow, there are so many comments on here with how they find self-care. Is there anybody that wants to share some of your challenges that you see this week, whether it's something with your relationship or being able to, oh, that's what they're doing, I see it. Okay, I'm getting this under control now.
Yep. Now towards the bottom,
there's so many comments. I love you guys. Hang on one second. All right. Conserving, yeah. So Marshall says conserving energy, definitely. Yeah, that's a healthy balance. And Juanita was working on feeling better. Yeah, you definitely want to make sure that you're very healthy during these times. Susan was work with employees dealing with their stress. Yeah, that is a big one. Not being able to enjoy the company of friends, the sore shoulder. Being trapped in the house with my wife's son and very crabby mother-in-law. I'm not going to say who that was.
Oh, that was me.
I know. I've heard that a lot from a lot of people. Luckily, my whole family gets along really good. Keeping my marriage relationship in good condition as we continue to self-exclude from COVID. Yeah, it's tough, man. I mean, it gets really depressing. And then staying on track with my egg fast. What? We'll have to talk about that one later. That'll be under holistic methods to healing. My challenge in juggling the simultaneously wearing of my mom hat and teacher hat, establishing boundaries between home and work, and then both happening in the same time and place. So that's definitely one with healthy boundaries, which I think is Wednesday. So that would be a good one for you. And then my biggest challenge is motivating myself to do something besides sitting on the couch watching TV after being laid off for 3 weeks. Oh my gosh, there's so many more comments. I need to read all these though, just so you guys are so we're all on the same page and know what's going on. Getting my schedule organized to keep myself and my kids on track with work and school. And then keeping my mind in a good place and not letting go of the dark side. And then working on relationship with my wife, keeping focus, working from home, accomplishing the things I need with my job, and get back on my diet. Yeah. And then getting control of my anxiety. Yeah, we'll talk about that. And then spending too much time on social media and getting computer work completed from home. Avoid too much pandemic news. So once again, that's going to be the healthy boundaries. We're going to talk about that during the healthy boundaries. So if you can attend that workshop. And then the keto diet, which I can't remember what all that is. All right. So I want to thank all
fats, all protein, like no carbs.
Yeah, that's right.
Crazy, but it works.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit of some of the people have just healthy boundaries are going to help with a lot with the people that are watching a lot of TV and things, so that discussion. But I want to talk to the person that specifically said anxiety, that just takes a little bit of time. And through the practices that we go through today, we're really going to help you with your anxiety. I can promise you that. All right, so here is the next one. So we talked about this week. So what do you foresee as your biggest challenges after this week? So it's not just next week, but I want you to think about the next month, the rest of April, May, June, July, maybe the rest of the year. And then I'll start reading these off. Yeah, dealing with the death of a coworker from COVID. That's a big one. That's definitely a big challenge. And as you start typing those, then I will read them. And then I just won't include the name because there's you guys are typing so much. But I definitely appreciate every one of you guys so much. That's super awesome.
Kerry, where's the icon for typing?
Are you on your phone or your computer?
Well, I'm on my computer, but I guess obviously you all can't see me, but you can hear me.
Well,
yeah. So under there should be like a little control panel. And on your control panel, there should be like a question. And on the question, you're just going to write your response, your answer in there.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So this is a big challenge, not being able to hug grandkids, keeping on track with my finances. Yep. That's a huge one right now. Finding time to get back into TM and develop a healthier lifestyle. Health issues. Yeah. I understand completely. Maintaining motivation as a stay-at-home continues, and the things I traditionally look forward to at the end of the year don't realize this year. So basically adjusting to the source of that motivation. Schooling my son at home. Everybody has typos. It's good. Finding motivation to do something different that makes me feel inspired and happy. So on that one, I want you to take a moment and just because it's a different talk. So if you can attend all 4 of these talks, there's definitely one of these talks that we're going to go through that's going to ask you exactly. But I want you to start thinking about the things that really bring you joy and happiness and journaling them. Helping C get past doomsday prepping and get back to some normal routine. Yeah. I feel like I've done that too. I mean, we try to have some balance, but I feel like, we didn't buy a lot of toilet paper, a lot of paper goods and stuff like that. Getting our finances squared away and keeping my marriage intact all the same time. And then staying healthy and enjoy spring in my yard or go to the farm. Man, that sounds like a blast. Getting more involved in helping other veterans, for first responders, including with Warriors Ascent. Well, thank you so much. And then find a balance of time and work to share office space with my spouse, since both are working from home. And then finding love myself again. Yeah, we definitely are going to go over this. All right. Thank you guys so much for sharing. All right. So I want you to think about if you spend enough time in self-care, including winding down in the evening, and what that looks like. And then we'll discuss that. So do you think you spend enough time in self-care every day and winding down? Because they really correlate to each other.
You want us to answer that, Kerry?
No, you don't have to.
Okay.
You don't have to type it out, but I just want you to think about it. All right.
Okay.
So let me talk about this for just a couple minutes. So I want you to realize that your body naturally begins to release higher amounts of melatonin about 2 hours before you go to bed. As long as you're staying away from like blue light and things that really stimulate you. So high energy music, or maybe an emotional movie, right? Whether it's action or emotionally at any of those other aspects. So if you follow the circadian cycle, right, from when you get up to when you go to sleep, then you're going to be able to go to sleep a lot better. So I want to talk about sleep and some of the process to help you get some better sleep. So one of them is, if you're a type A personality and you've had a lot of things going on, then you really want to do a lot of physical activity, right? So when I teach yoga to people, like young kids and things like that, that have a lot of high energy, in order for me to be mindful and present with them and them to be mindful and present with me, we have to get all that energy out. So it's the same thing. If your mind's racing all day and you're going, you need to find yourself an opportunity to release all of that out. And okay, so one of them is definitely journaling, right? Especially for women. Women are very empathetic. They absorb all the energy that's in there all day long, okay? And so it's very important for them to have an opportunity to express, to release all those thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Journaling is going to be the best way for them to do it. And this is men as well. So, and you'll hear this, and I'll say this every time, but even your to-do list. So if you have a to-do list of things that need to get accomplished or done the next day, that you really just need to write those down, because you're freeing up your mind, you're freeing up that space, you're giving your mind an opportunity to really let go of all that. So if you know you're not going to forget bread, milk, and eggs when you go to the grocery store, but how many times have we gone to the store to grab bread, milk, and then we forget the eggs, or we forget something and then we have to go in? So journaling those two things, it kind of makes you accountable, but it also gives you the opportunity just to release everything out there, okay? So your cycle to go to bed and to relax is about a 2-hour process. So if you want to go to bed at 11, then you need to start this process at 9. So no blue light, no TV. If you're going to read, either turn on the tablet or the device to where it's in night mode, try to read a book, journal, but then go through your nightly routine of what's going to calm you the most, what's going to relax you and reset you. So it may be, somebody said like a bubble bath. That's definitely one of the things that relax me. Like one of my routines is hot tub and then sauna and then a shower. And that helps just kind of relax and reset me through the whole day. So for you, it may be something different. Like for Mike, it's probably like a 3-mile run, a bunch of push-ups, a bunch of setups, a bunch of things like that before Mike can even think about like, okay, now I can be mindful and be present. I've let go of everything. But make sure that you're including journaling in that. Another thing that's really going to help you sleep is another thing is going through and doing what I call like a safety check of your house. If you know that like doors are shut, windows are shut, lights are on, lights are off, whatever it may be, or locked, whatever you need to go through to make sure your house feels safe and secure, feel free to do that. If you need to have a night light off, like I always sleep with the window open next to my bed, and that's for 2 reasons: fresh air, but the other one I use that as, you know, just an emergency in the back of my head as an escape route. If anything were to happen, then I know I can get out that window. So what's going to help you sleep better at night is what you need to start thinking of tonight. And so the number one thing is journaling, and journal throughout the whole day. Don't let a lot of these things build up within you. All right. And so time-based activities will be the next topic. We'll talk about it, but I have a video. So it's on the circadian cycles, and it kind of goes more in depth about what I'm getting ready to talk about. But I want you to realize your glucose levels are the lowest in the morning and highest in the evenings. So it's very important that you do not eat 2 to 3 hours before you go to bed. This is one of the things that has helped me out the most in sleeping a lot better. So my last meal is at 8:30, and then I usually go to bed about 10:30 and just kind of relax, and then I'm asleep by 11. Another thing, in your bed, you want it for sleep and sex only. If you're in there for more than 15 minutes, then you want to get up and do something. If you're not sleeping and you're having problems sleeping at night, I'm going to encourage you to go through and do some of my yoga nidra. I'm going to encourage you to journal. I'm going to encourage you to find those opportunities to release all those things. But then give yourself the solid 6 hours or 7 hours or 8 hours that you need. So for example, if you go to bed and you're getting up at 2 and then you're going back to bed and you're getting back up at 4 and you can't sleep, I want you to backdate it. So you want to get up at the same time every day. So say you want to get up at 6 a.m. and you're only sleeping 4 hours, then you want to stay up until 2 in the morning. And then you'll go to bed at 2 in the morning, and then you'll get up at 6. And you'll do this for a few days, and then you'll back step it, and then you'll go to bed at 1. And then you'll get up at 6 in the morning. And when you're sleeping for those 5 hours solid, then you'll go back and, okay, I'm going to go to bed at midnight. And then you'll sleep from midnight to 6, and then you'll go back to 11. So then you'll get your 7 hours. So make sure that you're getting up at the same exact time every day of the week, 7 days a week. And I realize a lot of people on here probably work shift work and things like that. And I realize that's an exception, but do your best to try to get on that schedule as much as possible. Before I move on, does anybody have any questions about any of that? If so, type it out, or you can raise your hands. I think Laura's hand was from, Laura, is that a hand from earlier? I'm just gonna lower it so we know. All right, if you have questions, I think everybody on here has my contact number, my information. Feel free to reach out to me at any point and we can discuss this further. All right.
Sleep stuff. The other thing, aromatherapy too.
Yeah.
You know.
Right. Okay, so time-based activities. Time-based activities is where you set a timer. So when you begin your meditation journey, that like your mind's gonna go crazy, and you're like, oh my God, I can't even do this for 5 minutes. That's completely fine. Set your timer for 5 minutes. Once you feel like you've accomplished that, then set it up to 8, right? Your threshold of being mindful and meditative is 20 minutes. There's been a ton of studies over this. And when you meditate for 20 minutes, it lowers your threshold. It actually shrinks the amygdala, right? And so to kind of revert back to what I was going to say a minute ago, that elevated blood sugar affects the amygdala and the hippocampus, which in turn affects learning, memory, and cognition. So your diet plays a big, huge role. And we'll talk more about that in that other workshop. But I want you to think about time-based activities. So like, start off small with something that's accomplishable, set your timer, and then you can extend it. So for example, if you want to go for a long hike or you want to run a marathon or whatever it is, you don't start off running like 6 and 10 and 12 miles. Or if you want to do a 4-mile hike out here in the Rockies, you know, you want to start off with 30 minutes, right? Last year, my brother came to visit and I took him up to like 10,000 feet. And I thought I was going to have to call like the park rangers or something to come rescue him. He's not used to the altitude. And so our first hike, we get up and he's passing out. And I'm like, are you going to be okay? He's like, yeah, I'm fine. But it's one of those things, like if you're not used to doing something, right? The first time you do it, it's very difficult. It's very challenging. It's not always easy. So set yourself up for success and just set your timer. Realize that I really am going to encourage you to get to the point where you're doing meditation for 20 minutes every day. And if you can, that's how you want to start off your day. And it will lower your threshold. It will reduce that anxiety. It will shrink that amygdala. It will really, truly transform your life. So if you can do it for 5 minutes every morning, get up and do it for 5, and then 8, and then 10, and then 12, and just keep extending it. But that's with all the activities in your life, that you set that timer and you don't overextend it. All right. So this is a good one for you guys to write down. We remember 10% of what we hear, 70% of what we write, but 90% of what we practice. So through this talk, you're going to remember some of the highlights out of there, out of your whole day of everything that's occurred, right? You may remember maybe a song or a video or what somebody said, but the more things that you write and you journal, the more you're going to remember it, right? The more you're going to be able to release it. But then 90% of what you practice is what you're truly going to remember. So you think about like all the memories and all the things that you've done in the past in your life, those are the things that you remember the most, right? The thoughts, the feelings, the emotions, all those things that were tied to it. So you start this journey of mindfulness, meditation, and being present, you're gonna start remembering so much more of it. All right. So you have to train and retrain your brain. I learned this in high school. The synapses follow the same pattern for effectiveness. So synapses are those thought processes, those feelings, those emotions that are tied into the brain. So to give you an example, if you're training your brain to do something, so like anybody here that's like EMT or any of those kinds of things, it's actually become like this reflex. It's auto, right? That you know exactly what to do. I'll give you an example personally. When I was in Kansas City a few years ago, around the corner, this real elderly, frail lady fell down on the ice in her front, like her steps. She fell down, and I ran up to help her, and I'm like, hey, you know, don't move. I wanted to make sure everything was okay. You know, what hurts? How do you feel? And I started just, you know, doing the whole triage thing, and she's like, honey, I'm really fine. Just help me get back into my house. And I'm like, okay. And she was able to walk, and we went all that. I got back in the car, and I put it in drive, and it wouldn't go anywhere. I'm like, what's wrong with my car? And I'm like, oh, I hit the emergency brake. So I put the emergency brake down, and then I start driving. I'm like, why are my turn signals on? Oh no, it was the hazards. So automatically, the first thing I did was hit the hazards, put that thing in park, and then I hit the emergency brake. It was just all automatic. So the same thing is with all our thought patterns in our life, right? So a lot of times when we feel anxious or we feel depressed or we feel discouraged, right? Or we're living in fear, we have all those negative kind of thoughts. It's because our brain has followed those patterns over and over and over and over in effectiveness. So once you begin to flip that switch of 180 degrees, right? So if you're living in fear, you journal today. Why is it that I have fear, right? Or if you have doubt or low self-esteem, begin to write down the reason why all those things are occurring in your life. You've got to get down to the why. So that's why it's so important to journal. And then you're going to be able to understand what is going on in your life and why you're feeling the way you're feeling and what's going on. And it could be things from your past, your mother, your father, your grandmother. It could be bosses. It could be lovers. It could be a lot of those toxic relationships that caused a lot of this and a lot of this thought process that we're playing over and over. So realize this, that you have the ability to retrain your brain, right? That you get up every morning and you start fresh. Every morning you start whole, you start complete, right? And you begin to realize that, hey, I have the ability to be positive. I'm going to give you some real statistics now, and I want you to realize this, that 75% of the Americans are negative, are down on themselves the majority of the time, right? Or if you want to look at it this way, Americans are down and depressed and negative 75% of the time. So the majority of the time, Americans are unhappy, right? So realize a lot of the times the people that are around you are also affecting you, that you work with, that you may have a relationship with, right? But when you begin to transform and you're now happy 75% of the time, and then you may be a little down or depressed 25% of the time, it begins to change who you are, right? So through this journey, through this path in journaling, I'm going to encourage you so much to journal what's going on. I have a wallet that's a journal. I always have a journal with me because if something comes up, I want to be able to write it down immediately. I want to make sure that I've got that moment in that time. Just like if you were to take a photo, you've captured that moment in time. Write those things down in your life and it will really, really impact who you are. Do you have any questions on the last two topics about time-based activities or about synapses and training the brain?
Hey, Kerry, do you keep just one journal and you hump it everywhere? Or do you say you keep a little notebook in your vehicle too or something? How do you do that? Because I'll forget.
Hang on one second.
Yeah.
So here's my wallet. And in here is a journal, right? So in this journal is my notes, right?
Right.
Over here, okay? There's
Okay.
one. Then this journal has my yoga sequences, right? I'll have that. And then I'll have a journal that just has a bunch of hodgepodge different stuff in it. So this may have like when I'm doing a woodworking project or something and I need measurements, I'll write this down there. Or if I need to go to Home Depot or a grocery list, I'll write that stuff down there. But I also use digital journals. So I also have Google Drive that I use for stuff. I have a buddy that I worked with at the Apple store that uses what's called Airtable. And he's gone in and created this amazing journal in Airtable. So use what you're going to use. Find out there if it's better for you to journal on pen and a paper. I just have to have something with me because if I don't write it down, I'll forget it. My wife, I'm like, hang on, I'll be on a journal, like, hang on a minute. She's like, you got to write in your journal. I'm like, yeah, got to stop a minute. I got to write down what's going on, right? So I have journal with me all the time. And when thoughts, feelings, and emotions, I know I need to write down, I write them down and I stop. So to that, I guess to that point, I want to let you know, anybody out here that's in a relationship, that you communicate with your family that journal's private and they understand that they're not going to look in your journal and you're not going to look in their journal, right? That is really private and that is something that's secure. If it's something that you really need to get rid of and something that's like really disturbing, you're like, oh my God, I just write this down. You can write it down, rip it up and throw it away or burn it, whatever kind of scenario that works for you. But use a journal and use as many as you can to do what you need to do. So like any of my quotes or anything you see on Facebook, that's a completely separate journal. All that stuff is completely separate. Some of them though are just a hodgepodge of things that have just got going on in my mind. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yes, it does. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anybody else have any other questions on that? I'm just going to tell you, journaling will transform your life. But you need to make sure that you feel safe and secure. Like all the doors in my house are always open. Like, you know, unless the door's shut, then you know that person needs privacy, but everybody sleeps with their doors open. The bathroom's open when people take shower. Like we're like this hippy dippy house. Like that's just how we are. But we respect each other's privacy when it comes to journaling. And we understand that that is personal and private for that person.
Hey, Kerry,
right, so
what was the name of that program that your buddy uses?
Airtable.
Airtable. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
an online kind of database. I don't know, Christopher Lemon, if you can hear me, he's on here. He may be familiar with Airtable. If you are, just say yes or no on that chat feature. But I might be able to find a video for somebody to kind of explain it, but he does it online and it's super, super cool because the reason why he does it is he wants to reflect like what was going on in his life today and a year from now, 5 years from now. And for him to do it digitally is the easiest method for him just to type it out, you know? So, all right, any other questions? All right, I want you to remember that self-care is never selfish, right? Taking time for yourself. You have to really put yourself as a priority. And this is a new concept for a lot of people, right? Because we're always giving, and always, especially these people that are veterans and essential personnel. It's in your DNA that you want to serve the community. You want to serve those people. But in order for you to do that effectively and efficiently, you have to stop and reset. You have to give yourself that time that you need, right, to take care of yourself. And that could mean something completely different for each and every one of us, but a lot of it's going to be the same, right? There's the whole holistic approach, but make sure that all aspects and concepts you can, you're giving yourself that opportunity for self-care. And if you can, 2 hours of self-care for yourself every single night before you go to bed, and you're going to start sleeping like a baby. You're going to wake up and feel so much better. All right. So we're going to get into these concepts. I may run over if you have to get off. I think we scheduled this for an hour. Did we, Mike?
That's right.
Yeah. So it may go, we'll see how this goes, but I want to make sure that I'm giving you everything that you need. All right. So if you have to kick off, I completely understand. So the first thing about mindfulness, I want to kind of explain to you my journey and what happened. So I have a lot of health issues related to being in the Gulf War. And I went out to New Jersey for testing out there a whole week. And they do all kinds of different things and different tests. And they told me that, they believed that it was immunizations and exposure that caused all these issues. And their thing for me was, their suggestion was Tai Chi, yoga, and biofeedback. And I'm like, I know what yoga and Tai Chi is, but I have no idea what biofeedback is. So I get back to Kansas City, and they enroll me in Leavenworth for so many sessions with Dr. Black, which was this amazing guy out there that taught me about biofeedback. And basically, we sit down and you're sitting in a chair and they're measuring your oxygen, they're measuring your blood, they're measuring all these different things, right? Your pulse. And then you're kind of watching a screen and you get to pick, and then you get to pick what kind of relaxing music did you want. And so I sat in there, and then I noticed every single time my pulse went down like 10 beats after 20 minutes. And so then I started studying mindfulness, and I started studying meditation. I started studying all these different concepts. And so I did that for about 4 or 6 months before I even walked into a yoga studio. The most important thing I'm going to tell you out of this is your breath, and it's a slow, methodical breath. So if you've ever seen like a sinusoidal wave that goes up and then comes down and then goes up and comes down and goes up, that's how you want your breath to be pretty much throughout the day, unless you're doing some like intense exercising and things like that. So you want it to be a belly breath, right? So if you put your hand on your heart and your hand on your belly, you really want your belly to be moving and not your chest, right? And so if you look at an infant and you notice like an infant breathes naturally that way through their belly, that's what you want to do. So that's part of the retraining of the brain, is retraining how you actually breathe, right? So slow, methodical breath. And so I encourage people to count their breaths, and then you pause, how long you can pause, count that, and then exhale, and then pause. So for example, inhale for like say 4 to 6 seconds, you pause for 2 to 4, and then you exhale for 4 to 6 seconds and then pause. And eventually you're going to be able to extend that, and your breath is going to be longer. The philosophy goes back to the difference between Eastern and Western medicine. So Eastern philosophy is your life dependency is upon your breath. Western philosophy is your breath is dependent upon your heartbeats, right? But if you look at animals that have lived a long time, sea turtles and things like that, they can hold their breath a long time. All right. So you begin, and I'll talk about meditation after this, but I want to kind of get into what the concepts are. So a slow breath. And so like whatever you're doing, you're driving your car, you're sitting on the couch, whatever it is, take a minute and just put your hand on your heart tomorrow, hand on your belly, or tonight, right? And just try to retrain your body to where the chest is static, but the belly is moving in and out. That's going to be one of the very first keys. All right. And count your breaths. You want it to be able to relax you. You don't want it to stress you out, right? So you don't want it to cause anxiety, right? You don't want it to be like constricted. So kind of think about your throat. You can actually kind of control the size of your throat with your breath. So like they have those little skinny straws, and then they have the big jumbo straws. You want something kind of in between. You want your breath to be able to just be long. All right. I'm going to go through these kind of quick, and so I can get into the meditative part. Does anybody have any questions on breath before I move on?
That's just what you call box breathing, right?
Yep. Yeah. So, I see a bunch of questions now here. Sorry guys, I'm just now seeing these questions. Let me scroll through these real quick. All right. I just want to make sure. I haven't missed anything. So Chris says he hasn't used it. Tracy wants to know where everybody's at all over the world. Yeah, Marshall says, yeah. So it can be 2 10-minute sessions. Absolutely. You just want to start somewhere, and then eventually you'll get to that point. Okay. So, yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's box breathing, and that's what they call it. So you want to think of a box. So your inhales and exhales matches, and then how long you're holding it matches. So it's more really like a rectangle. But a rectangle is technically a box. So if you can inhale for 6 seconds, if you can hold it for 4, exhale for 6, hold it for 4, and just keep doing that kind of method, then you're right on cue. All right. So mindful observation. Now this all goes in the concept of mindfulness, and then we'll talk about meditation. So I say the first thing is your breath, and then the second one is observation. This is one of my favorite photos. I don't know if you can see that there's Colorado mountain goat and sheep in this photo at the same time, which is super rare. And I felt really blessed to be able to get both of them in the photo. So that's why it's important to start this off in the morning. Is like when you wake up in the morning, I think somebody said their shoulder was bothering them, right? Somebody said they're really anxious. You probably wake up feeling that way. And so just a general observation of what's going on in your body. Where's your shoulder sore, tight, or, you know, what's kind of achy, what's kind of tender, how are you feeling, you know, all those different things. What's going on with you mentally, physically, and spiritually, right? How can you reset? How can you start today new, fresh, whole, and complete? But that's why it's important, because you have to begin to observe what you need for that day. That's part of your self-care routine. Is the first thing when you do is you wake up, you lay there for a minute, you start this breathing technique, and you just figure out what's going on in your body and how do you feel on all aspects. And feel free to write that down, all right? So part of that process too is just finding more things in your life, in a sense, to observe differently. And we'll talk about this more when we go into meditation as well. But what I want you to think about is your morning routine, that you observe that just a little bit different, right? So when you're brushing your teeth or you're taking a shower, all those things that you're doing, you're just kind of more aware and more observant. You're more observant to all your senses, of your sight, your sound, of what you hear, all those things. Okay? We'll talk more about that. So the first one is awareness. If you want to journal this, there's going to be some subcategories. So we'll start off first of all with the awareness of how you feel. So you wake up in the morning and some of you feels really strong, some of you feel really relaxed, some of you feel like more open, and then other parts are a little tight, a little achy. That's part of, like, at first it's just a general observation, and then you're diving down into your awareness of feeling. So how do I feel physically, right? What do I need to pay a little bit more attention to myself physically? Then it's how do I feel spiritually, right? And mentally, right? How does all this play a role in my life? And so the awareness of all the feelings that are occurring, right? And then I want to tell you that through this is when you begin to set your intention for the day. So your intention is kind of like, you think about maybe your objective or what you want to accomplish. So if you're feeling a little tired and a little achy, maybe it's a day that you just need to be restful and be centered, right? Maybe it's a day you feel more energetic. So maybe you need to find an opportunity to be outdoors and find an opportunity to exercise a little bit more, right? It's part of that healthy balance that you don't have to overextend yourself, right? But then you don't feel bad that today you took a day to be yourself and to be who you needed to be. So the awareness of all the feelings that are going on around you, the temperature of your room, the clothing, the sheets, the comforter, anything that you've got going on, right? Externally, and then you dive down in internally. All the different feelings that are going on through this whole entire body, mentally, physically, and spiritually, right? That's how you begin to set your intention for the day, right? So we got the awareness of how you're feeling, and then, hi, they're my puppy. He just woke up. He was snoring this whole time behind me. Hi. So awareness of how you're feeling, right? And then kind of depends on what's going on in your life. To me, it's hearing of what I hear. I mean, thankfully I have a creek right outside my window here. So I'm listening to the creek. I'm listening to the birds that get up at like 4:30 or 5 in the morning, right? All the ducks and everything that are going in the creek. So what you hear, right? And it could be your dogs and maybe the heater turning on. So the sounds of nature, the sounds of the people in your space, right? But then the awareness of what you're telling yourself. So once again, this goes back to your intention. So did you wake up anxious? Did you wake up tired? How did you wake up and how do you feel? You've got to make sure that you turn that into something positive, right? So do I need to tell myself that I'm strong? Do I need to tell myself that I'm bold? Do I need to tell myself I'm gifted, I'm talented? Make sure that you start to retrain that brain first thing in the morning. And you begin to tell yourself something positive. Is there? I don't think anybody's up here. So it's very important that you become more aware of the thought processes that's going on, of what you're hearing, that internal, right? What am I really truly telling myself? And realize that you have the opportunity to be positive. So awareness of how you feel externally, internally, right? Of what you hear externally and internally, and then what you see. So when you begin to open your eyes, you see this world is more beautiful, right? You see this world is more nurturing. You begin to see the people around you in your house of nurturing and caring and giving and loving. It's very, very important that you find from this point on unconditional love and acceptance for who you are, right? And you figure out how you can provide that to yourself. And it's going to be important for you to begin to journal that, right? So how you see yourself, how you see this earth, right? Those all that, and then you can include like the sense of smell as well. So you're going to dive into all the senses of awareness, and those are all of those concepts. So think about kind of those gaps of maybe that you really don't pay attention or you put on the back burner, right? A lot of times it's like, oh, you know, my elbow hurts or my knee hurts. I'll just worry about that later. I'll worry about that later. But you shouldn't. You should address the issue today. And that's with your mental, physical, and spiritual. Anything that's up to the surface, anything that's kind of a red flag, that's the thing that you want to take care of the most. All right. So immersion is where you just begin to open yourself up again to a different level of acceptance, non-judgmental, right? Hang on one second. Is anybody up here? Orlando, can you take the dogs out? Yep. Thank you. Prince, go. Everybody go. Go. They usually go out at 6:30. I knew this was going to happen. They're all up here because I'm the one that takes them out. So you want to begin to immerse yourself into something that's really, really positive, right? And allowing yourself just to be present in this. You're going to have to get Tammy. Oh.
Taking you out of your routine, man. Routine.
Well, that's what I'm saying. 6:30. I knew this was going to happen. I totally told Tammy. She's like, "Oh, they can wait," and I'm like, "No, they won't wait."
What happened to boundaries?
I know. Orlando, just ask Tammy. Okay. So I'm glad this is being recorded so we can look at this later in our live. So you want to follow these steps over and over and over through the day. So for example, anytime that you get stressed or you get a trigger, that you kind of give yourself the opportunity to step away from that and stop, and you take a deep breath, right? You observe what's going on in your body, mentally, physically, and spiritually. Feel free to write this down and then become aware of how you feel, externally, internally, of what you see, externally, internally, and what you hear, right? And then eventually, go, good boy. That is part of this immersion, right? That throughout the day, especially when you get a trigger, if you have the opportunity to step away from any of that drama, any of that social interaction, even sometimes the dialogue that you're telling yourself, that you give yourself that opportunity to stop and be mindful and be present. All right, I know we're getting close on time. So appreciation, this is another really good opportunity to journal, to write down 3 to 5 things every morning that you may take for granted and appreciate them differently. Whether it's somebody in your life, or whether it's yourself, or maybe it's physical, like what, you know, one of your senses, or maybe it's your car or somebody in your family, whatever it may be, but try to find 3 to 5 things that you normally take for granted and begin to appreciate that. So I know I went really fast. I went a lot faster than I normally do, but I know we're kind of limited on time. Does anybody have questions over those concepts of being mindful and being present? And I'm going to look and see if we have it.
I'll say mindful appreciation or gratitude. Everything I've heard, read, that is like one of the #1 keys to happiness.
Yeah.
Is gratitude, is taking inventory of what's good and right in your life, you know, even when things are bad, but really being mindful of things for which you should be grateful, and doing that daily, you know, multiple times a day, and that really is a game changer.
Yeah, so gratitude is one of the biggest things out there that has no negative side effects. There's no negative side effects of being grateful. So if you can kind of retrain your brain in that thought process of what is it I can be grateful for right here, right now, and find more of those opportunities, you'll never have any negative side effects. So Marshall said that if you haven't read it, read Peace is Every Step by, is it Titch? Not Han. Author spelling may be misspelled, but it's about mindfulness.
Not Han.
Okay.
I've heard
All right.
yeah, Thich Nhat Hanh. He's pretty famous.
And then Juanita wants to know if we'll be able to watch this recording later. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
And then
we'll post it.
Erin says she's reading the book Unfuck Yourself, and it's been really good, about positive mindset. I have not read either one of those. And then, yeah, he says monk. All right. So any other questions about like being present, being in the moment before we move on to meditation and what that looks like? I'm going to try to keep that down to like 10 minutes. So we'll only be about 10 minutes after. Okay. The Body Keeps Score. Yep, Timothy, that's a real good book. Very good book. Okay, so I'm going to go over just quickly the concepts now of meditation and what that looks like. So when I started doing my meditation journey, I would actually like set like on the side of a couch where the arms are, I'd put that underneath the knees. I would put pillows and blankets underneath me, over me. I like it warm. I turn the temperature up warm. I would light a diffuser. I would light incense. I would turn on some really cool music. And then I would put something cool on my computer or TV or whatever it is to watch to help get me set up, right? So I could actually just kind of be in that moment and be present. I wanted it to be as relaxing as possible. And that's what you want for you. You want to give yourself this portion of self-care, of meditation, that you are just being as relaxed as possible. Self-care routine, take care of yourself, whatever that may be, right? So what I did was I put my hand on my heart, my hand on my belly, and I would start my breath and I would count them. So I would inhale for a certain amount of time, pause, count that, exhale for a certain amount of time. Realize that your mind is never really going to shut off. Your mind's going to keep racing, keep going, keep having these thoughts, right? The objective is just to be okay with those thoughts and to give yourself the opportunity, like Mike said, to be grateful, to be positive. So if you begin to feel a little anxious, that you flip that around and you begin to find confidence. If you begin to feel fear and you turn that around and you find fear, you become fearless or you become empowered, right? So you transform those thoughts. So be as comfortable as possible. Set yourself up for success, right? So whatever that means with you, a comfortable spot, you can lay on a yoga mat, you can do it whatever, but you want to be able to eventually get to the point where you're being meditative for 20 minutes a day. That's really going to change that threshold. They did some studies and they took 100 women out to Sedona and 15 of them had done yoga, what they called yoga before. 85 of them hadn't. And they did all this blood work and then they did scans of their brains and all these different things. And what they realized is they continued the study of this afterwards, that the people that continued to do yoga A year later, their blood work was more even, their cholesterol was lower, and all these studies of veterans and stuff they've done of their scans too, of yoga. And really what they mean by yoga is being mindful and doing a mindful act, right? And it's proven that these people that have PTS and have been in traumatic situations, that being mindful just 3 times a week, that's all it really takes, will transform their life, will shrink that amygdala. Your amygdala gets enlarged and you're always on high alert. So giving yourself 20 minutes will help shrink that amygdala and will give you the opportunity to begin to truly, truly reset. So find a place for you that's really, really comfortable, a place for you that's going to allow you to relax. And if it's the couch, play the music, put in your earbuds. Eventually you're going to get to a point where you can do this when you're walking, when you're jogging, right? There was a place in Kansas City, some kind of row park. I forgot. They had like Red Brick Road. It was by a community center. I'd walk over there. They had these little cliffs, and I would just sit up there and meditate as long as I could. And it was just an amazing time for me to be alone, to be centered, to be grounded, and just to journal and write. So mindfulness is this process that you're going to be in all day, right? That you're going to be present in the moment, because I want you to realize that you truly can't multitask. Some people can do things quicker at a time, but really if you're focusing on this email, that's really all you can focus on. If you're focusing on, your coffee or what's going on for breakfast, that's it. If you're focusing on your relationship. So as soon as you get all these healthy boundaries and all these things and you put them in their boxes of where they should be, you're going to allow yourself to be present and be in this moment. But realize you truly can't multitask. So meditation is giving yourself that time to just be alone with yourself, to focus on your breath, to focus on your intention, and to dive deep. That's why I encourage people to do it first thing in the morning, because you can observe what's going on in your body. Is your jaw tight? Is your neck sore? Your legs, right? General observation, awareness of everything that's going on. It gives you 20 minutes to kind of reset, recalculate, rebuild. If you do that in the morning, and then you do that at night, you're really giving yourself all those opportunities that you need to be present and to be in that moment. I know I went over a lot of those things really, really quick, but going through these processes, journaling, thinking about giving yourself that time 2 hours before you go to bed, and going through the opportunity to be mindful is really, really going to transform your life. Meditation is that process. And meditation can be a lot of different things. It could be fishing, it could be jogging, it could be a lot of those things. But as long as you're really just kind of being in that moment, focusing on your intention, focusing on your breath, it gives you that opportunity that you really, really need to just reset and relax. And remember, just write down anything that's going on tomorrow, anything that you need to do, anything you need to accomplish, put it in your journal. I know I made that super, super quick, but I want to ask, what questions do you guys have before we conclude? I usually give about 5 minutes for a discussion. You can, if you want to talk, you can turn on your mic, or you can just type it in there.
Kerry, would you mind kind of defining when you say set intention? Does that mean, example, you say I'm going to be in a good mood today, or what? How do you define that?
Yeah,
So
it can be a lot of things. So like this morning I woke up and I felt super sore. Like I was in a lot of pain. So I have a lot of physical ailments. And so when the weather changes like it does and the barometric pressure changes, it was painful. I could hardly get out of bed. And I'm like, man, I've got to get online and teach an online yoga class at 8 o'clock. And it's 7 o'clock and I don't even think I can get out of bed. And so I just started my meditation practice. I started relaxing. I said, you know what? There's no rush. I'm not in a hurry. So for me this morning, the first thing was patience for myself, right? Love, and most importantly, acceptance that it's going to be okay. And so I had this really neat power flow that I was going to do. I couldn't physically do it, right? So I had to accept who I was at that moment in that time. And I had to do a completely, totally different yoga sequence this morning that I had planned, that I had set myself up for, a different playlist, everything else. So my intention this morning was that just acceptance of myself, that it's okay that I'm in a lot of pain. It's okay that I had kind of expectations of what I was going to do, but I can't accomplish them because of where I'm at physically, right?
Mhm.
Because then if I would have overextended it, that would have affected me mentally and spiritually, right? And then I'm like, well, I've got other things I've got to do today, right? And so then as I get up and I'm getting around and I go through the yoga, then I'm looking at I feel my legs itching like crazy. And then I look down, I'm like, oh my gosh, I got this eczema breakout. So then it's healing energy, right?
Mm.
And then it's a healthy balance to make sure that I don't overextend and that I'm taking care of myself. So it could be a lot of different things. I mean, you could wake up tomorrow with a lot of anxiety and you're like, okay, how do I cope with this anxiety? Let me start with my breath. Okay, just let me be present in this moment, and I know it's going to be okay. Let me find peace. Or what is in my life that I find joy, right? You may have to ask yourself a series of questions to kind of get those answers and realize that through the day, your intention could change, right? It doesn't have to stay static of what you set it for first thing in the morning. As your day changes and progresses, right, you may have some kind of personal or professional conflicts, and that's where you need to find forgiveness. Oh my gosh, I've got to forgive myself. I've got to forgive this other person, right? So an intention is just kind of like what you want to set for that person. If you can attend the talk about turning conflicts into intimacy, I go a lot more in depth about intentions and things that will help you as well. So does that kind of answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Somebody wrote in here, do you have suggestions or links that can share of great guided morning meditation and listen to and create routine and a habit to begin with? I'm going to just say I would look at some of my guided meditation. I have never followed anybody else on there on YouTube or anything like that. I have just really listened to myself. So my suggestion is to find some of my yoga nidra or even my deep stretch and just follow that through in the morning and the evening. If I can think of anybody else knows of anybody that's been very helpful for them to be mindful and meditative, I would definitely, we can keep in touch and I can share that with you. But just off the top of the head, I think listening to yourself and understanding what's going on and just following those concepts are really, really going to help you. And then we've got acceptance is a huge part. Accept we are no longer who we were. Yeah, and telling ourselves it's okay. It took me a long time to get there. I completely understand. That goes in the role of forgiveness. So I've gone 10 minutes over. Does anybody else have any questions or anything that they want to provide before we kind of close out? All right, I think Mike has one more poll he's going to put up, right?
Well, no, here's the deal, guys.
Okay.
Shortly thereafter, you'll get a survey.
Okay.
Just basic questions. Hey, did you get anything out of this? I think it's like a, from 1 to 5. Anything we could do to make these things better. And then also topics, like upcoming topics. We've already got a bunch teed up, but beyond that, if there's something for which we've got some expertise, we'll tee that up as well. Lastly, yeah, hey, if you got something out of this, share it. This is an open forum. We're trying to, just FYI, we're trying to do online cohorts. We had to, as you know, postpone cohorts due to the social distancing. So we're offering much more intimate invite only for, in this case, some of the ladies that we had to postpone on. We're doing here is separate and distinct. This is open to the Warriors Ascent alumni. I'll say the Warriors Ascent community, anyone that is in any way, a supporter. And if you want to share and say, hey, I got a lot out of this, and somebody that may not be affiliated with Warriors Ascent at all, and you want to invite them to this open forum, we can accommodate plenty of people. That's why we're using GoToWebinar.
Yes.
So I hope you got something out of it. Guys, we're still at 17 people have stuck with us. So
I know. Thank
so
you guys
awesome.
so much. Yes, I appreciate every one of you. I love you guys. Thank you for this opportunity. Just like Mike said, if you know anybody that's struggling or could use any information from any of these, we've got 3 more. We got one on Wednesday, then one next Monday and Wednesday. Just please share this with anybody that you may. Friday. You're right.
Monday,
You're
Friday,
right.
Monday, Friday. But we'll tee up more, and we'll have some other, we'll try to, get some other instructors and stuff too. We'll round it out. Just go to the website, we'll post it on social media, but the intent is to have a variety of these things. But Kerry, namaste, my brother. Thank you so
Namaste.
much. Always a
Thank
pleasure.
you guys so much. And Tracy, yes, you can invite whoever you want on here. Absolutely. And thank you so much for all these other amazing feedback that I've got so far. And I'm just going to really encourage you that send some feedback to Mike via email on what you got out of this either way, even if it's just a short one line, but it really makes it better for me and helps me improve. So I really, really need your honest feedback as much as possible. Love you guys. Thank you, Mike, once again.
Guys, absolutely. Answer the survey, which you'll get. And, first and foremost, and if you are so inclined, if you want to email me, you can do that as well. But the survey will collate all the data and make compiling it much, much easier. So thanks so much, guys. Stay safe. Stay healthy. We'll talk to you.
Love you guys. I'll see you soon. All right, bye.
Bye.